Section 1.1, Definition of Agency and Fiduciary Duties. Introduction, setting the stage for commercial agency. Agency is the foundation of every real estate transaction, but in commercial real estate, it carries a level of complexity and risk that far exceeds residential practice. In Arizona, agency is not simply a concept. It is a legal relationship governed by statute, administrative rule, and case law. This course is designed to walk you through that relationship step by step, starting with how agency is created, what duties are owed, and how those duties apply in real-world commercial transactions. As you move through this material, you will begin to see that nearly every complaint filed with the Arizona Department of Real Estate traces back to a failure in agency, disclosure, or communication. Under AAC R428-1101, licensees are required to protect and promote the client's interests while dealing fairly with all parties, and failure to do so can result in discipline under ARS paragraph 32-153. This section sets the tone for the entire course by establishing what it truly means to represent someone in a commercial transaction. What is agency in commercial real estate? Agency is the relationship that exists when a real estate licensee is authorized to act on behalf of another person, known as the client, in a real estate transaction. In commercial real estate, this relationship often involves more sophisticated parties such as investors, corporations, partnerships, or developers. Unlike residential transactions, where buyers and sellers may rely heavily on the agent for guidance, commercial clients may have attorneys, accountants, and advisors involved. However, this does not reduce the agent's responsibilities. The duties owed under agency remain the same regardless of the sophistication of the client. Arizona law does not distinguish between commercial and residential agency duties, meaning your obligations under AAC R428-1101 apply equally in both environments. The complexity of commercial deals actually increases your exposure because there are more opportunities for misunderstandings, misrepresentations, and failures to disclose material information. Commercial versus residential agency. Why it matters. While the legal duties are the same, the application of those duties is very different in commercial real estate. For example, in a residential transaction, disclosing a roof leak or plumbing issue is a clear material fact. In a commercial transaction, material facts can include lease income, tenant stability, zoning restrictions, environmental concerns, or the accuracy of financial statements, such as net operating income. A failure to properly disclose these items could result in significant financial harm to a client. This is where case law becomes critical. In Hill v. Jones, 1986, the court established that sellers, and by extension their agents, must disclose material facts that are not readily observable and that could affect a buyer's decision. While this case involved residential property, its principles apply directly to commercial transactions. Similarly, Jennings v. Lee, 1969, reinforces the agent's fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the client, emphasizing that withholding important information can lead to liability. These cases remind us that agency is not just about representation, it is about responsibility. Fiduciary duties, the core of agency. Fiduciary duties are the highest level of care owed in a professional relationship. In Arizona, these duties are embedded in AAC R428-1101 and include loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable care. Loyalty requires that the agent place the client's interests above all others, including their own. Obedience means following lawful instructions from the client, even if the agent disagrees with the strategy. Disclosure requires the agent to share all material facts that could impact the client's decision. Confidentiality protects the client's private information even after the transaction is complete. Accounting requires proper handling of money and property, and reasonable care ensures that the agent performs duties competently. In a commercial setting, these duties often intersect. For example, if an agent knows that a tenant in a retail center is about to vacate, failing to disclose that information to a buyer could violate both the duty of disclosure and the duty of loyalty. These duties are not optional. They are enforceable standards that define your role as a professional. How agency is created. Express versus implied. Agency relationships can be created either expressly or implicitly. An express agency is formed through a written agreement, such as a listing agreement or a buyer-tenant representation agreement. In Arizona, while not all agency relationships are required to be in writing, relying on implied agency creates significant risk. Implied agency occurs when the actions of the agent suggest that they are representing a client, even if no formal agreement exists. For example, if an agent provides detailed financial analysis, negotiation advice, or strategic guidance to a buyer in a commercial deal, that buyer may reasonably believe the agent is representing them. This can create unintended fiduciary duties and potential liability. Under ARS, paragraph 441017, certain agreements, including broker employment agreements, must be in writing to be enforceable. The safest practice in commercial real estate is to clearly define agency relationships in writing at the earliest possible stage. This eliminates confusion, protects all parties, and aligns with the expectations of broker supervision under AAC R428-1103. Bringing it all together, the real-world impact. Understanding agency is not just about passing a test or meeting a requirement. It is about protecting your client and your career. Every commercial transaction begins with agency, and every mistaken agency can ripple through the entire deal. Whether it is failing to disclose a material fact, misunderstanding who you represent, or operating without a clear agreement, the consequences can be severe. As we move into the next sections, you will see how agency ties directly into disclosure requirements, compensation structures, and broker supervision. The goal is to give you a clear, actionable understanding of how to operate in compliance with Arizona law while delivering exceptional service to your clients. Online discussion. How does the complexity of commercial real estate increase the risk associated with agency relationships compared to residential transactions? Answer. Commercial transactions involve more variables such as financial data, lease structures, and multiple parties, which increases the likelihood of miscommunication or failure to disclose material facts, thereby increasing liability risk. Why is it dangerous to rely on implied agency in commercial real estate? Answer. Implied agency can unintentionally create fiduciary duties without clear agreements, leading to confusion about representation and potential violations of duties like loyalty and disclosure. How do fiduciary duties impact decision-making in a commercial transaction? Answer. Fiduciary duties require the agent to prioritize the client's interests, disclose material facts, and act with care, which directly influences how the agent advises, negotiates, and communicates throughout the transaction.